Hello everyone, welcome back to our My 2015 series with our emo girl. I did do a little bit of cleanup here. We're now down to just shoes, base mesh. The shirt I have hidden on a layer over here, it's still there. It's just easier to work when it's not in the way. Left eye, right eye. I just deleted history and cleared out all the empty groups, so I recommend you guys do that as well. That way your outliner stays nice and clean for as we go into the animation process. All right, so in the last lesson we went finished up with Mocap. We brought our rig in, targeted it, and then exported it with all the Mocap data. So I'm going to bring that back in now. Let's see here. What is this one? Okay, so here's the rig. I deleted off the base mesh and re-exported with just the skeleton. That way the base mesh here wasn't affected at all by it, and the remaining skeleton there wasn't any kind of confusion between character one reference and the one I sent back, and then it was sent back this way, or sent to IPy and then it was exported back. So just to do some cleanup and whatnot, I ditched the old skeleton, brought back in the new one, and then just when I re-export, I just exported the skeleton all by itself. So if that's confusing to you at all, to sum up, is all I did was just basically selected the skeleton, deleted the base mesh, and then went to File, Export inside of Maya, Export Selection, and then re-imported just the skeleton in here. So that way it's a little bit of a cleaner scene to start out with. So it's starting kind of mid-walk cycle here. You can see it's over on frame 115, so that's the reason why it's not in T-pose. Some things I want to point out is that if you scrub back here, you go to frame 1, T-pose isn't quite lined up right. And the reason why is because they actually put the real T-pose on frame 0. So you'll have to zero out the side here. Zero this one out as well. Okay, there we go. So now it locks into place. Alright, so some things that kind of get moved around a little bit inside of IPy is because when you're targeting your skeleton into your character from IPy, sometimes what happens, actually what happens, is that it forms your skeleton that you imported to the actor, which makes it to where the skeleton doesn't always come back fitting 100% correct. So there's some adjustment that needs to be made. Mainly just with the hand, as far as I can see. So I'm just going to move this hand back to where it is. So this is where the wrist should be, in this area here, right? And then I'm going to take each of these joints here and also move those back and over. I'm just going to basically refit them back in. So it seems a little tedious, but it's not that big of a deal having to go through it and do it a second time around. It's easy work. It's a little bit of a pain since we already did it once, but it's still easy work. Okay, make sure that all your joints are and it's really best if you can just rotate them rather than translate them. If you rotate them as much as you can to position, that's the best. Don't go through like this and say, okay, I'm going to take this one and translate it up, because that can accidentally, if you move it like this, if you move it to where you see now this is not pointing up the axis, you can end up having some issues in that way. So grab it from right here, move this one up and back to where it's seen right there in the meat of the knuckle. And if I want to rotate it, then I will rotate it from in the back here. The end effect here, I'm going to go ahead and bring this one back. And as I click on this, this may bring up a point. You see all these keyframes in here. Now, the hands aren't animated for motion capture at all, but that doesn't stop them from putting animation information on the end effector, which is that joint right there at the very end of the finger. So, what does that mean for us? Not a whole lot, except for the fact that we're going to have to delete off that animation information if we're going to want to animate it ourselves, which I do. That's going to make it to where we can use our hands for motion capture to pick things up, um, to interact with things that we couldn't do through the mocap. We'll just do it manually, not hard once we get it set up right. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and move this one as well. Okay. Also, something I want to point out is that I'm going to there's multiple ways of handling mocap data, but what I'm going to do for this lesson is we're going to actually skip using the character rig, which may seem wrong to some of you. We're not going to use a control rig. We're just going to use raw mocap data put through the joint system and the tracks editor. Mostly because for my class, we just simply don't have enough time to educate my class on how to use the control rig as well, with the mocap data and the tracks editor. It's too much for a one-term process. So part of it is time constraint related. The other part is that we can actually make this work really easily without actually bringing a control rig into play. So I'm going to show you this way. In a later lesson, I'll also show you how to use the HIK rig to go ahead and bake all this animation information from the joints into that rig so that you can use it later on to do editing with your mocap data. That being said, there's also a lot of tutorials already out there on the subject, so if you do want to just go ahead and show yourself around how to do that, just look up HIK mocap, and there's lots of series on how to do that, but there's a whole lot of series on how to just work with the joint data and jump straight into the tracks editor and start creating some product out of your mocap. So we're going to go ahead and go that route, and then like I said, I'll go back later on and create another lesson with the same data with the control rig so you guys can see both ways. Alright, so this hand is done. Just have to do the same thing to this hand. It's important that your hands are inside the base mesh. So make sure you check it from the side views and whatnot, making sure they're all inside here. Now we can't do, I know you got some of you are probably thinking, why don't we just mirror left to right and save ourselves the hassle? We can't really do that because all the joints have baked in data from our mocap. So if we want to go and do mirror left to right, we have to go and bring that back in, and then have to clear out all of our current data in there. So we can't mirror at this point. If this is an empty rig, we could definitely do that. Okay. Something that'll help you here, what I just did there, if you didn't catch that. If you hit F, that is the hotkey for frame. So I use that a lot in not just rigging, but modeling as well. Really anything inside of Maya. Makes it to where it frames in whatever you have selected. Okay, bring these up and over. There we go. Start with this one here. Also, something I want to point out is that I ended up deleting the history off of my base mesh. The reason being is because, like I said earlier, how iPy likes to distort your rig to conform to the actor's size. That makes it to where the model I had is stretched in a way that didn't look natural. So I deleted the history. I'm just going to reskin it back in. I know that we'd already painted weights once. So I'm not going to go do another lesson on painting weights since we already did that one time. But you will have to do that again if you want to follow me step by step and have it the same results. Something else that I will do, not right now, but a little bit later on, when I do the finishing touches on our model, is I'm about to paint the weights for the hands, because once we skin the hands in and we have the hands doing animation, the joints are almost guaranteed going to influence the finger mesh around it. So we'll have to do a little bit of cleanup there so that it looks correct and doesn't stretch the fingers next to it as one goes down. It doesn't make all the other ones go down as well. Okay, that's about right. Okay, and yeah, there we go. We're good. Okay, so next step, we want to clear off all this animation data on these fingers. And we'll just do it to the end of all the fingers at the same time, so you don't have to repeat steps. So we'll select that last joint at the end of each one of the fingers. Okay, and then we're going to have to, we don't want to do it at 120. This is like, it says 120 here, but there's more than 120 frames to our animation. So open it up to 1,000 so you can see how many frames you really have. Yeah, see, it's up near 935 it looks like. So hold down Shift on this timeline and left mouse button drag from 940 all the way back to the very beginning. And then inside the yellow here, just hold down a right mouse button and go to delete. Now don't just hit the delete button. If you do that, I'll delete your model. They're tied together in that way. Alright, so now the animation is cleared out of the fingers. Now we're free to be able to animate these guys. Alright, so we're going to create our own control rig for the things that we want to control, which is mainly just the hands. So I'm going to go to create. I'm going to create myself a circle. Okay, it's going to drop down the bottom here. Okay. Also, if you're wondering about the shirt, I'm going to be dealing with the shirt later on. Right now it's just going to be in the way. But what I'm going to eventually do is I'm going to copy the skin weights from the base mesh here. I'm just going to copy them over to my shirt so that as it moves, it will also move the skin, or not the skin, the shirt. I could use dynamic mesh and cloth to animate or have the shirt movement be more realistic, but that kind of poses its own set of problems with collisions from the base mesh, and it's just simply be time consuming that I'm not going to handle in this lesson. I might handle in a future lesson, but right now it's just it's going to make our lesson plan run a little bit long, so we're going to go with copying skin weights. That'll be the fastest method. Okay, so here's our curve. We're going to go ahead and delete history, freeze transforms, clears out the channel box over here. I'm going to call this one control, and this one's going to be wrist. Okay. Now we don't have to deal with movement of the hand here. So how this is handled is going to be kind of interesting. We're going to parent this controller, and before I do that, I'm going to duplicate it because I want to use the same control on the other side. So I'm going to just hit Control D now. Just move over to the other side for now. This one, I'm going to parent it to this joint here, not this joint. The reason why is because if you parent it to this joint, we're going to get double transformations, because I'm going to want to use this one to rotate the orientation on this one, but if this is parented to it, then this will be receiving rotation information from the thing I'm rotating, so that you end up having these things flip. So we're going to select this one, we're going to shift select the forearm joint, and I'm going to hit P for parent. So now if I select this joint here, this also selects, right? Okay, perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy here, this control. Apparently it inherited some translation information, so I'm going to go ahead and freeze transforms on that as well. I think that probably came from when I parented it in. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, and you want to make sure these are all zeroed out, I'm going to shift select this wrist joint here. I'm going to go to constraint, go up the submenu for it, make sure maintain set offsets is turned on. If you don't, here I'll reset settings, it's turned off by default. So if I hit apply, you'll see the wrist is going to snap straight upwards. Or maybe it won't. Sometimes it does. It's kind of unpredictable in that way. So I know with the head joint it definitely always does that. But turn maintenance offsets on anyways. That way, this hand will be constrained to whatever this is, and won't accidentally jump to the direction that this curve is set at. So I'll go ahead and hit apply. The reason why I might not have flipped these is maybe it's parented into this guy, so maybe the orientation of the joint is okay. I don't know. Just guessing. Anyways, so let's go ahead and close this. Now you'll see that there is an orient constraint on the rotation of that hand. So now if I take this guy and I rotate it, I have control over the movement of the hand. Something else I'm going to do is I'm going to add a set driven key for the fist, so that I can or for the hand, so I can actually do like a fist clinch. If you really want to get down to the nitty gritties and make to where this thing is really does pretty much anything you want, you can do a set driven key for each finger, so you can do like finger roll driven keys, but just for time constraint purposes, we're going to just do a fist. So I'm going to go to edit, I'm going to add attribute, I'm going to call this one fist. Minimum of 0, maximum of 10, and I'll hit OK for add. So now you'll see there's now a fist attribute here. Again, if you want more attributes, just go ahead and create some more. You can do some different hand movements here. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my animate dropdown. Now it's an animation, animate. I'm going to do set driven key and set. Now I'm going to select the controller. This is going to be our driver. It's almost like driver. I'll load up right here. The attribute that I'm going to be using to drive my joints with is going to be the fist attribute. And the driven is going to be all these joints here that make up the fingers. I'm going to select each one. And what this does is it'll create like a faux animation. There won't be keyframes down here, but there'll be keyframes on the joints, so that when the attribute activates, it'll call out that movement. So it won't actually record down here in the timeline until we tell it to, which is great. And then once we do want it, it'll just do the animation for us, and then it'll record down here in the timeline. So, anyways, we're going to be using the rotation X, Y, and Z as the axes. So those are the attributes that are going to be driven by the fist. So I'm going to select those guys. And I'll hit key. And the reason why I hit key now is because if you double click here on the control wrist, you'll see it pulls up over here in the channel box, and fist is set to 0. So this is its 0 state, its default status. So once I go ahead and change this to 10, nothing happens because we haven't set what the fist is going to look like at 10. So what I got to do now is I got to go back here again. A little bit worried. For some reason, I only have the thumb here selected. So why don't I go back and just make sure that, nope, okay, so somehow those got deselected. I must have done that while I was talking or something, but let's go ahead and make sure that we do it correctly this time. So just reselect these joints. And on this guy. Oh, that's what I did. Okay, so load, driven. Okay. Select all these guys, select all these guys, rotate. There we go. Set this back to 0. Okay. And I'm going to hit key. So they're all keyed now. There we go. Now we're going to 10. Sorry about that, guys. Got to make sure all your joints are over here and you're driven. It only had one joint, which would have made it to where it didn't work right. Again, so now we're going to go through here, now that the 0 state has been recorded. Why don't we go ahead and actually not do the thumb to begin with. The thumb rotates a little bit differently than the rest of the fingers, so I can't just go through and select them all at the same time. Okay. There we go, now we have this. Now the reason why I was selecting them one at a time, because I know that you guys are like, why don't you select the one at the top, but I'll get you the whole chain. is because if you select just the one at the top, it gives you the whole chain. This is what happens. You select the top up here, and it just rotates off that one axis. So if you select each one individually, it rotates all of them at the same time on that axis. So now I can have it rotate and curl like that. Okay, so I can go ahead and key this. So hit key, double click on this guy here. Now here's our attribute. If I hit select the fist, and I'm not doing the number over here. You can't insert the value here, but you can get the animation if you unless you do it this way, or unless you create animation already in the timeline. So I'm going middle mouse button drag over here in the gray space with this attribute selected, and now you can see that there's this clench going on. So let's try to pick up things now based off of my mocap data. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close this guy down. If I want to test this out, you see, yes, my controller comes with it, so perfect. Everything is set. All right, good. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to do the same exact thing to this one. So I'm going to go ahead and go back over here, control wrist. I'm going to go ahead and call this one control wrist R. Make sure the other one's called L. That'd be smart. There we go. All right. I'm going to snap this guy onto this joint. Alright, so freeze transforms again. And I'm going to parent it to this joint. So it's already selected. I'm just going to shift select the arm, P for parent. Okay, and again, it appears that when you do that, it takes the parented information and plugs it into the translate. So I'm going to freeze the transforms again on this controller. There we go. Okay, so same process again. We're going to go through and create another attribute. So add attribute. Again, we're going to call that one fist. Okay, and I'll go 0 minimum, 10 maximum. Hit OK for add. Okay. All right, next step. We're going to now open up our animate set driven key again. We'll go to set, and remember this controller is going to be our driver, so I'll go to load driver, and the fist attribute is the one we're going to be looking for. And then we're going to load up all the driven, which is going to be each one of these joints here. And again, remember, you have to select each joint. If you only select the parent joint, it won't necessarily select all the children joints. Okay, load driven. I'm going to select the top one, which will display the attributes. And then I'm doing the rotate X, Y, and Z. Hit key. Okay, so you can see it popped up over there. That's good. I'm going to go back to control wrist. I'll put a 10 value inside the fist. And now I'm going to, again, select each one of these. Saving the thumb for later. I'm just doing everything else for right now. Okay, and then I'll hit E for rotate, and I'll rotate the Z here. Just kind of get this going on here. Something like that. And then same thing with these guys here. I'll just take that. Okay. Something like that. Good. And I'm just going to hit key. Good. So let's go ahead and test this out. Got our fist here. Scrub back and forth. Perfect. Alright. Good. Close that out. And our wrist control is done. Okay. Okay, next step. We're going to now skin this model back in. Now remember, like I said, we're not going to go through and paint weights right now. It would kind of benefit me for now to combine this object with my base mesh. So I'm going to go ahead and combine those. That'll help me out a little bit. The eyes I'm not going to, because I'm going to control the eyes at some point. So I'm just going to go to Mesh, Combine. Okay, so now they're the same object. Okay, come along nicely. Next step, we're going to select the base mesh, shift select the root joint, and we're going to go back to our animation dropdown. We're going to go to skin and go to smooth bind, set our option box, make sure that you have joint hierarchy selected. Okay, hit bind skin. Okay, so let's go ahead and just test to make sure that it worked. Now the eyes popped out of the head because, again, like I said, I didn't handle the eyes right away, but that looks pretty good. Okay. Alright, so let's go back here. And until I deal with the rig for the eyes, I'm just going to parent these guys in with this joint over here. That way they go along for the ride until I get a rig set up for them. So select each eye, just shift select them, shift select the joint at the top here last, and just hit P for parent. So now as these guys go along, they get to go along for the ride. Okay, that works perfect. Great. Okay. And these guys, I believe it's empty, so I think I can just delete those. Nope. Okay, undo that. There's still history tied in there, so I guess I'll probably have to go and redo the skin here. Delete history. That clears out those extra groups. There's some history tied in there. I should have deleted that first, so I'll just have to run through that last step again. So just select that joint again, just go to skin and smooth bind, and we're back in business. Okay, and those shoes also go on for the right. Perfect. Okay, good. Let's see here. We've got a few more minutes left. Okay, so let's create a character set, and that'll set us up for our next lesson in the tracks editor. So to work in the tracks editor, you need to have a character set. So we're just going to create one. And to create one, you want to select everything you want to be involved inside this character set. So, which is all your joints and controls. All right. So I'm going to select, and really, I'm not going to do any kind of hand motions at the moment. But if you want to do some animation with your hand motions, this will probably be the time. You can edit things after the fact, but usually when you create a character set, you want to kind of be done with your animations. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and run forward and create a character set right now, and I'll do some editing next lesson as well. So you'll get a little bit of both of those, using the character set, using the animation, and then using the track editor to get a flavor of all three of them. But for time's sake, so you guys can see what I'm talking about for the character set, let's just dive in there for now. So what's going to be involved in this character set is going to be my rig mainly. So I have control 1 reference. I'm going to shift select. You see where it says character 1 hips. Now this doesn't necessarily select everything down to the joints. So what I want to do is I want to go to edit, select by type. It's not delete by type, sorry. Select by type, joints. Okay, good. Let's see here. Just gonna frame it here, make sure that it got my controls as well. Yeah, see, I think that it tried to skip my controls. Make sure we get that in there as well. Okay, do the same thing over on this side. Since I did oh no, what happened is I selected it and then it did that. Okay, it's all good. Okay, so it's all in there. May as well even throw the base mesh in there, sure, why not? We'll go to character, create character set, open the set menu there, and we're going to call this one Emo Girl. Okay, I'm going to do all keyable as far as what's going to be attributes that are going to be included, and then nothing else. That's all I need really. So I'll go ahead and create character set. Okay. Good. Now if you look over in our outliner, we now have this little emo girl character set. Now, it has all these little extra things inside here, but if you click on them, you notice that it doesn't highlight inside of our viewport. That's because we're not actually going to be doing anything with the character set as far as editing goes. What we need the character set for is so that we can take keyframes from her and put them into the tracks editor for nonlinear animation. So now that we have our character set, it says emo girl there, we're going to go ahead and stop the lesson here, and then in the next lesson we're going to go ahead and start working on in the tracks editor and pulling out animations. We'll make some alterations if we need to, and make some animation clips so that we can start creating some nonlinear animation based off of our mocap data. Alright, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.